It was 7 years ago that the existing shop in Amberley closed. We felt something needed to be done about that. Suddenly the idea of using the church came about, and it turned out that this was absolutely in line with Church of England policy. So we got cracking on a scheme which was to build a shop and cafe at the back of the nave.
So once we had a design, plans and permission, we then had to deliver, and we couldn't have done that without an extremely capable project manager.
Essentially, the church, under my direction, became the contractor. So we ordered the materials, we took on the labour. Some of the contractors were specialist subcontractors, but I managed that whole process. And the thing is, that saves probably 20% off the build cost.
People who were cautious at first about the idea of there being a money-making business at the back of church came to understand that it was actually a not-for-profit community enterprise rather than a money-making business.
We've converted the old choir vestry into accessible toilets. These pews are made of pitch pine, and they strip down beautifully to make a really attractive table. In fact, we're going to make a few more. We've installed 2 air source heat pumps.
It's a green solution on our way to net zero.
What we did was we erected a scaffolding right the way through the back of the church, completely sheeted it with plastic, taped it to the walls to create a complete dust screen with a tunnel made of plywood that came from the side door through into the nave.
It's a really bold step of what we can do and what we can achieve with underused church buildings.
We're having people coming into the church who wouldn't otherwise have come in, and they're pausing, they're lingering in the church, looking around, appreciating the peace.
Any reserves we are able to build up can be ploughed back into good causes within the community. We've recently circulated a note to our volunteers asking them, A, can they come to a little thank you celebration in January, but also what do they enjoy most about working in the shop and what would they do differently. And the feedback has been incredible. Almost 100% have said the thing they like the most is meeting other members of the village, meeting other volunteers, and just doing something useful for their village. And that sense of belonging is overwhelming in the responses that we had. So, you know, a project like this, there inevitably will be problems along the way, but it's a very good moment at which to solve those difficulties. So the financing of the project, there were 2 parts to it. The money that the shop had to raise, which is about £165,000, and the church at the same time and under the same project wanted to improve the access to various elements of the church, and they were seeking to raise £110,000. From the shop's perspective, we managed to raise money from a very generous donation from the Methodist Church, from the David Thomas Charitable Foundation, from the Knott Grove Trust, from a whole host of other funding bodies who were extremely generous, on top of which we were able to raise money from through our local fundraising. But most importantly, we formed our Community Benefit Society, and 240 members managed to raise £75,000 through the purchase of shares in the Community Benefit Society. Local residents were invited to buy shares at £10 each. You could buy 1 single share, or you could buy 500 shares. And all that gives you is an entitlement to vote at the annual general meeting. It doesn't give you any dividends or any return, but it's a way that those individuals can invest in the future of the village. And the fun part of it was all the fundraising events that we had, be it plant sales, book fairs, quiz nights. Legendary quiz nights. They're very good. We need to have another one of those.
Yes, please.
So it was a lot of fun as well.
With the ramp up to the church and the disabled access toilets, we also have opportunities for wheelchair users to volunteer, and we've got connections with the Star College.
And they've been working here and really got a buzz out of it. A fantastic. Jazz, who's fully wheelchair bound, was serving here at the servery, delivering coffees and teas to the tables, clearing tables, operating the cash desk. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Lovely to know that we're part of a means of offering that opportunity.
The diocese have been incredibly supportive. They like to see church buildings being used, and that's what we're doing here. The Diocesan Advisory Committee have advised us all the way through and supported us.
My advice to any church that was thinking of doing a similar project, and I know the church is very keen that this idea is rolled out in other churches, I would look really carefully at who you have in your community. There's bound to be some people who've got some construction experience, but it's a really useful thing to have as part of your team.
This church now is a bustling, lively place every day of the week.
This is a great example, and we hope an inspiration to you to think about what you might be able to do with your church building in your context. It's wonderful to see this church being used every single day, blessing its community.